your husband. Why did you marry this guy in the first place?
Good question. Good question. So I don't want to, and this is my former husband because we're not still married,
Former.
but at the time I met him, I had really started to come to terms with the fact that I am not wired for conventional monogamy. Unfortunately, at the time, I wasn't meeting anyone who was like me in that way. I signed up for the mainstream dating apps, and this is like a long time ago before it was swiping and it was like you had to press the buttons kind of thing. You were doing it on your desktop. But
Mm.
I went out on dates with 30 different people. And on every first date I went on, even if it was somebody who I knew I didn't want to see again, I would ask them the same question, which was, hey, just, curious, what are your views on monogamy? And not a single person out of those 30 said anything other than, no, I'm kind of a one woman kind of guy type response.
Hmm.
And so the message that sent to me at the time was, you're going to end up alone unless you conform, or like there's something wrong with you, Rena. And my former husband, really decent, solid guy. We had fun together. And I thought, well, I guess this is, if I can't beat them, I'll join them. And that's really what it was. And really all of that came to a head about 6 years into our relationship when I realized this isn't something I can change about myself, much like in the same way that, if I were gay and I chose a man and married a man and I was like, well, maybe I'll just wish this out of me. Like that's just not how this works.
Hmm.
And ultimately I'm not wired for this thing. He is. And that's why we split up.
What was it about him that separated him from other guys? Did he have like well, how old were you when you met this guy?
Oh, let's see. I met him right before my 30th birthday. No, sorry. Right before my 31st birthday. So I was 30.
Okay, so the reason getting ready to ask you this question because a lot of female friends that I have, typically when they're younger, they're dating a guy because they think he's hot. They're attracted to him, X, Y, and Z. But then once they start getting their later 20s, they're in survival mode. Like, oh, what
Mm,
does this guy's career look like? What does his family look like? Does he look good on paper? Does he smile correctly? Can they put him in some men's health magazine? Something, the stereotypes. What was it about this dude that made you say, okay, I'll settle with you and marry you?
Well, and I don't know if you can relate to this, but what I found is that every time a significant relationship ends, you kind of look in the next partner, or like when you're dating again, you're looking for the thing that you felt was most missing in the relationship you just got out of. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And the longest term relationship I had had before my husband, um, one of the deficiencies, he was a very, very nice guy, really sweet guy, probably the sweetest partner I've ever had.
Mm.
But we didn't have really deep intellectual conversations. And I realized, if I'm going to grow old with this person, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Like, I really don't know what we're going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband, the person who I ended up marrying, is very, very, very smart. And that was never the issue. I mean, up until the day he and I decided to no longer be married, we could have just discussions for hours on end. And I really liked that about him, that he challenged me. I always felt very safe with him, pretty stable dude. But then on the other hand, there was a bit too much stability. And I then came to realize, like, well, there's not much surprise or spontaneity here. There's not as much adventure here. And so I definitely have a lot more of that in my life now. But hopefully that answers your question as to what initially attracted me about to
So
him.
he was safe. He was a safe partner, but he wasn't exciting. Uh,